Hello, everyone. Today, we'll be going through the undergraduate program briefing for students matriculating in 2026, August. My name is Min. I'm the Vice Dean of Undergraduate Students, and I'll be narrating this 90-slide deck for you. Now, just to be clear, there are slides and there will be a recorded video of this being made that you can find at the two QR links up here. Okay, also at the hyperlinks shown there as well. First, I'd like to welcome you to the School of Computing and tell you a little bit about what this briefing is for. This briefing is meant for students pursuing the various forms of the Bachelor of Computing. There are about 5 of them, as well as the Bachelor of Science in Business Analytics. There's really not much difference between the Bachelor of Computer and the Bachelor of Science, but they are different degrees. Even though we touch on all of the specifics of these 5 programs, there are 2 other programs that we will not go into detail about. This is because they are jointly administered by the School of Computing as well as our colleagues from the College of Design and Engineering. This is for Bachelor of Engineering in Computer Engineering and our Geospatial Intelligence cross-disciplinary program, which is new for this cohort. That briefing will be made by our colleagues over at the Geography Department in the College of Humanities and Sciences. For both of these programs, you'll need to go to the specific briefing. So for example, for the CEG program, you will need to go to the briefing that will be on July 17th from 10 to 4 p.m. and it'll be held at the Atrium Lecture Theater in the EA block. So just to make it clear, there are going to be a total of 5 programs addressed in this briefing. The purple and the green program will be separately briefed. So just to make sure that you're paying attention to this pre-recorded video, you will want to note down pieces of information because during the live session that everyone should appear on July 14th on Monday, we will be testing your knowledge of what you listen here, okay? So just to make sure, you need to listen in for information about all of these different parts. What ensures that your degree represents education done at NUS? How do we know who has the priority for securing a spot in a popular course? How do we know that academic honesty is really taken quite seriously? Because there are lots of important repercussions if you choose the wrong thing. How do you know that NUS wants you to experiment with new subjects without risk to your grades? How do we know that we can certify the depth of understanding in one of the programs that you've chosen to study? How do we ensure that you have a solid foundation of world knowledge? And how many forms of industry or research experience can you get at SOC? And finally, very importantly, who do we turn for help when things don't go quite our way? So we're going to start with a briefing about how to deal with courses and grades, specifically about how to find good course material, methods for taking a course, and how to compute your grade point to average. These are things that many students want to optimize when they take courses within the School of Computing. First, for searching for course information, the best stop of information is NUS Mods. This is actually a student project from way long ago that NUS decided was better keeping afloat rather than using our own systems. So even though it has a .com address, this is the current official method for finding information about our courses. You can find information about the course timetable, class, and exams, as well as a course planner for planning your own classes as well. Most NUS information from NUS mods will also percolate into Canvas. That's where our instructors typically put information about their courses. You can log into that with your NUS Net ID once it's provided to you. I'll give you an example of one of our core courses, Introduction to AI and Machine Learning, or as it's popularly known as CS2109S. This course is offered in both semesters, meaning the current semester in August as well as the one in January. And it has certain pieces of information which you'll want to pay attention to. First is this prerequisite block. Okay, this is pretty unreadable, but there is a graphical version of this information as you scroll down. Okay, there's also preclusion information to say that if you're taking another course, you will be precluded from taking this one because it overlaps a lot. You'll also want to pay attention to the workload. The workload represents for a normal course that's a 4 units, approximately 10 hours a week of work. Okay, so here you can see there are roughly 2 hours of week due to the lecture, 1 hour due to tutorial, and then 2 hours due to lab, project, and another 2 hours for preparation at the end. This all totals up until 10 hours of work. When you scroll down some more, you'll see the current timetable for this class, which is current because I took screenshots of this earlier this week. Okay, you can see here that the actual lecture slot happens here on Friday mornings from 8 to 10. We know it's early on the morning, but it's a good way to start your day. You can have the rest of the day off to do other courses or other work. Now, this course is very heavy in terms of the amount of tutorials that you have to take. So you'll be assigned into one of the several tutorial slots that are present here. You can see there are over 38 tutorial slots in total that are offered only on Wednesday and Thursday. So in total, you can see that you'll be busy for this course that you usually will take in year 2 on Friday mornings or Wednesday and Thursday. So the cohort that came before you last year will be taking this mostly this coming year. Now, taking courses can be done in 3 different ways. You can take it for letter grade. You can take it sometimes as a compulsory, satisfactory or unsatisfactory course. So usually these two are separated ways of taking a course. One option will be available and the other won't be. And finally, for ones that have letter grades, in certain cases, you can opt to change that letter grade into a satisfactory or unsatisfactory option instead. So obviously, the easiest way of taking a course, which is normally given to you, is taking it with a letter grade. So when you take a letter grade, you'll be assigned at the end of the semester based on how well you did your continuous assessments and any final exams, if applicable, a letter grade corresponding to A, B, C, or D, or F. All of these will be included in your final calculation of your performance for your grade point average. You can see the mapping on the right-hand side here, of which, importantly, A and A plus are not distinguished. They're both in the range of 5. You can also take certain courses only as completed satisfactory or completed unsatisfactory. So these, as it says here, are not an option that is given to you by the class. Okay, it is something that is a standard setting for that particular class. And these courses do not affect your grade point average. A final way of taking a course is if it was ordinarily a letter graded course, certain classes can be changed to the satisfactory or unsatisfactory option. This is to promote people, especially all of you, to try taking things in a risk-free fashion. This is for the grade-free scheme. You can usually take these and apply these to Options for classes or courses that you want to take but you want to experiment with, but you're not sure whether you'll do well. Many of your major requirements will not allow you to do this. When you exercise the SU option, your letter grade will disappear and you will obtain either a satisfactory or unsatisfactory record for this course. And this means that your grade for this course will not be included in your computations for your grade point average. You need at least a D grade, a passing grade, to convert to a passing grade to obtain units. Now, very importantly, there are some caveats. You must exercise the SU option within a 3-day window after the results of the course have been released. You may allow yourself to exercise the SU option on any eligible course read within the same academic year. For example, let's say at the end of this current semester in November, you're not sure you want to keep a B+. Well, you can keep it, but then in the following academic year, meaning in semester 2, you can decide if you've gotten good grades that you actually want to make that B+ into an S because you only want to retain A grades. Okay? You can do that within the same academic year. Okay? However, please note that you have to use these options very carefully. Once they're exercised, they're irrevocable. Coming back to the same example, let's say you did decide to SU that B+ into an S in the first semester, but later on in semester 2, you find that you're not doing so well and you would have liked to take the B+. Unfortunately, that option is no longer available to you. So exercise your SU options very carefully. This enhanced grade-free semester scheme is limited to mostly introductory level classes because these are classes from other faculty that you might want to experiment with. Level 2000 courses without NUS courses as a prerequisite are also fair game. Also, level 2000 communications and ideas and exposition courses that are offered by CELC and UTown are also okay. And language courses at all levels made available by the Center of Language Studies, FASS, and Yale NUS College are also fine. This should be actually NUS College, so let's just make it clear there. You cannot exercise this option with certain courses, and this is very important to remember too. If you have found to be plagiarizing or are on questionable grounds for academic honesty, you won't be able to exercise this option. Or if you dropped with an F grade during the semester. There are some technical points that I want to call out here, but you can look through these guidelines on the web. Okay, you are availed up to 32 units of SU that you can apply, of which 20 have to be used, if at all, in the first year. That means you can extend the last 12 to be used in your second year of studies. Variations on the SU limit may apply for certain types of students. For example, students who have no prior experience but are granted advanced placement units, either because they transferred or they have credits from polytechnic diplomas. Students that have some prior experience, for example, that transfer in, may exercise up to 12 units of SU anytime during their candidature. But students with a prior university degree, that is, who are studying for a second degree, are not eligible for the grade-free scheme at all. Let's see how this plays out in terms of the mapping. So if you have a letter grade on the left-hand side, it maps to the following grade points in the middle column. And it maps to the SU option if you are able to convert that course, say it's a level 1000 course, into an SU based on the grade point average of maintaining a D or above, sorry. All importantly is the GPA. The GPA helps to determine your standing of your degree once you've graduated. While not everything is contingent on the GPA, many things you'll want to take into account to maximize your standing. It's a very simple formula. It is the sum of the multiplication of the course grade point times the number of units that course is taken for, and then normalized over the entire amount of units you've taken during your university degree. To graduate, a student must obtain a GPA of at least 2.0 to qualify for a degree. Let's take a look at a particular calculation of this. Let's say, for example, a student who has been placed in the School of Computing has taken the following 6 courses, as indicated on the left-hand side, and received the following grades. We simply multiply through all of these grades and their unit points over to the points column. So, for example, 20 points, okay, 12 points, 12 points. Here we have 14 points and 6 points for this. And because this is an S, it doesn't apply at all. Okay, so we can total up all of the points in this column to find out the total number that we will have. Okay, so you can see that accordingly, we've taken a total of 20 units because we're not counting the S class. And we've arrived at a total point score of 64. Okay, so we can divide 64 by 20 and then get the calculation that it is 3.2. Okay, so 3.2 is the GPA for this semester. Now, if this student has also taken a previous semester, then if she achieved a 4.0 in the last semester, then we have an additional calculation. Okay, so we can see here that we would have 3.2 times 20 for this semester, plus 4.0 times 20 for the first semester, and then adding those up and dividing by 40 for the total number of units, 20 in each semester, then we would have arrived at a GPA of 3.6 in total. There is a continuation requirement for students in the School of Computing. In the first semester, all students progress regardless of how well they're doing. This is because it takes time to customize to the university environment. In the second semester, we have an advisory for students who aren't performing that well, despite the grade-free semester that you can apply for certain courses. Okay, from the third semester onward, though, there is probation for students if they get lower than a GPA of 2.0. And if you continue to get a GPA of less than 2 for 2 consecutive semesters, you will be dismissed. So when you're on academic probation, you have to come to see us to receive counseling, and you need to restore your good standing and be removed from probation by bringing your GPA back above 2 in the following semester. There are also candidature limits for how long that you get to stay within the school at NUS. For normal students, our undergraduate program that takes 20 units a semester for 8 semesters is a total of 8. Okay, but you can stretch this out for good reason. Maximum number of candidature for normal 4-year programs is an additional year or 10 semesters. For normal candidature for undergraduate programs that have a Single honors, it's 9 consecutive semesters, okay? And 10 consecutive semesters for ones graduating with double honors. A maximum candidature for double degree students, or DDPs, it will be a total of 6 years, or 12 consecutive semesters. Once you calculate your GPA, it will continue to work with you until you graduate. In your final semester, we'll tabulate the GPA for your final graduation GPA. And if you achieve a graduation grade point average of 4.5 and above, you will receive a highest distinction. Okay? Between 4 and 4.5, you'll get a distinction. And between 3.5 to 4, you'll get a merit. So again, you can think of this as around an A minus, and a B plus, okay? Somewhere around there, okay? Honors will be the rest of the students who achieve above a 3, and those who get above a 2 will be passed on. As earlier mentioned, students who are unable to maintain a 2.0 GPA will fail the course and not receive a degree. Now, this is really, really important, so I want to say it up front. By default, all teaching activities are required face-to-face activities. This goes for any of the things like lectures, labs, tutorials, and exams, okay? If your lecturers decide to make some of these pre-recorded or optional, or to be attended by remote, that is their option. It is not something that you can demand from your lecturers, okay? So as it says here, if the lecturers feel that student learning outcomes are not going to be compromised and they want to offer a remote or asynchronous learning modes, they may, okay? But it remains up to them. You may not demand that you have the convenience to take leave, have a remote recording, or any recording whatsoever to suit your demands, whether for internship or being on leave or for your convenience. Some lecturers also decide to forego final exams because they feel that the student learning outcomes are better held with continuous assessment, or CA, and in such case, some of these courses may have 100% continuous assessment, so there will be no final exams during exam periods for those courses. Let's take a look at computing the GPA for a particular student, say SOCAT. So Socket is into his final semester. His GPA is 3.35, and he has already accumulated 142 units. He intends to take 20 units of courses in this semester. Now, this Socket wants to get an honors classification, but he wants to bring his GPA from the 3.35 up to 3.5. How can he do so? Okay, well, this is a natural equation to solve, right? So we can write down the math to do that. Okay, so we'll just show you what happens here, right? We have here 142 units already taken for 3.35. We want to calculate what GPA these remaining 20 units should have, okay? And we want this after normalization because he's already taken 142. We have a total of 162 in total, okay? And we want it to be greater than 3.5. So when we solve this inequality, we will say that Socket needs a 4.5 GPA for the courses that he is taking this semester. All right, so ways of doing it is to, for example, get 4 A minuses and 1 A. That will give him a GPA for that particular semester, his graduating semester, of 4.6. Now, there are several ways to get 4.6. So another way is to get 2 B pluses as well as 3 A's, so a bit more scattered apart. However, if your best grade is a B plus, then you might be in trouble because if you get a B plus as well as a B, there's no other way that you can get higher grades that will help you to maintain a 4.6 or better. So with this information, Socket will know what to do. Let's take a look at another student. Linus's GPA is 1.49 currently. That means he was on academic probation in the last year. Because he's already finished 40 units, that means he's in his second year. So he wants to take a total number of the normal load of 20 units this coming semester and try to rise above a 2 so he's off academic probation. Now the question is, what type of GPA does he need to get for this coming semester so that he's off of academic probation and gets at least a 2.0? Well, because his goal is to get a 2.0 GPA after completing all 60 units, we can solve for the inequality. So we're going to start with 60 units times 20, 2.0, sorry, okay? Because that's his goal, and subtract away his current track record. That was 40 units at 1.49. And we want to divide that through by 20 because that is his intended amount that he's taking this semester. When you solve for this inequality, you see he needs to get slightly above a 3.2. 3.02, sorry. So examples of this are, for example, to get 4 B minuses and 1 B. This will compute to 3.1, okay? Or, for example, to get 2 C pluses, a B minus, a B, and a B plus. That will also total to 15.5 course points divided by 5 courses in total, or 3.1. Now, academic integrity and student discipline are very important things within NUS. A breach of any of the NUS Code of Conduct or assessment rules will render a student liable for disciplinary action, which may result in suspension or expulsion from the university. Personally, as the Vice Dean of Undergraduate Studies, I have the unfortunate problem of needing to counsel students when they run into academic integrity and student discipline problems. So please make sure you're clear about the problems with this. In fact, one of the key things that you'll need to remember is that AI is allowed and favored in many classes, but you need to use it responsibly. In other words, you need to keep track of how you're using AI and make sure you accredit AI for the work that's being done. We can't plagiarize from AI and pass the material off as our own understanding of the material. So academic honesty is a really serious matter. And in fact, NTU and NUS have both run afoul over these problems over the last year through its students. In NTU last year, there were 3 students who were penalized over the use of AI tools, even though they disputed the university's findings and were ultimately given a failing grade. And SOC itself has been in the limelight for all the wrong reasons as well. There were AI research students in our graduate population who put hidden prompts to try to detect inappropriate reviewers who were delegating their responsibility for giving an honest review by pushing the paper review over to an AI. This is not the right way to report problems when people abandon their responsibilities. Finally, as a third case study, I will show you one case of a student in our undergraduate just a year back or so that actually committed plagiarism and academic dishonesty by copying part of their assignment. If you read the text here, You can see that the student was in a bit of trouble by not being able to understand how to do the assignment. However, they went about getting guidance the wrong way and asked for help from their senior when it was explicitly not allowed by the class. In this case, the class lecturer said if you have problems, you need to come to us as the instructors or your TAs. We will help you out. Okay, so unfortunately, this student did get penalized, and this means a lot of problems going downstream. They cannot TA for courses, they cannot take jobs at NUS, and they cannot go for exchange overseas, even though their grades may be stellar. So a lot of opportunities are given to you by NUS, but if you take the wrong turn and don't consult your lecturers, you can be liable for academic dishonesty and then student conduct breaches and then disciplined. Please take responsibility for your actions, and in any doubt, consult your lecturers. Key points to remember. As I said, check with your lecturing team. Make sure that they understand, and you do too, what the AI policy is for that particular course. And make sure you help others recognize their incorrect behavior. This includes when other people in your class or your juniors seek help from you, you may need to turn them down and tell them to go back to their lecturers to make sure that they are doing the right thing. Don't assume that you know the policy if you haven't checked it. You cannot rely on ignorance as an excuse, and you cannot abet or aid others in any type of academic dishonesty. This will get you in trouble as well. Okay, so we've finished the first third of the briefing, and now we're going to cover the next section on curricular structure and degree options. First, your degree is very simple. It consists of 4 years spread over 4 different quadrants. 1 year for unrestricted electives, 1 year for the common curriculum, this is usually in year 1, and then 2 years for any program level requirements. For example, our CS degree will have covered things in its program requirements. This case, where we have a total of 160 units, you will need to, as I said before, achieve a GPA of at least 2.0. Okay, so with this, you'll have a degree that has a choice between advanced courses as well as deeper industrial experience. And you'll be using your unrestricted electives or UEs up here to explore parts of your program that you find are interesting to look through. Again, you need to fulfill all 3 sets of course requirements, and you must make sure that your degree is in-depth. That's why we require that no more than 60 units or half of and 1.5 semesters are at level 1000. Okay? Finally, we need you to know that your degree is representative of study in NUS. This means that you must complete at least 50% of the required units for the degree physically here in NUS. That means when you go for exchange, you can complete parts of your degree, but the majority of your degree must be done at NUS. For polytechnic graduates with a previous diploma, we recognize the prior experience that you've taken during that coursework. And so you'll get 20 APCs or advanced placement new credits that is basically 1 semester off in your program. These are not included in the 60 unit limit for level 1000 courses. You may also, if you have a competing relevant degree, receive up to an additional 20 units from your program requirements, or that blue section that you saw on the last slide. This means that certain polytechnic holders of diplomas will get almost a year off of their degree studies at NUS SOC. The SOC Common Curriculum consists of university-level requirements, 24 units of this, as well as 16 units of common curriculum for all SOC students. This includes the Computing Ethics course, which is 4 units, IS 1108, as well as an additional 12 units or free courses worth of interdisciplinary or cross-disciplinary courses. Interdisciplinary courses have course material that represents several different course disciplines, but cross-disciplinary ones have specific material that's from each discipline embedded into the single course rather than blended together. So you must fulfill at least 2 ID modules or courses and no more than 1 CD course. Okay, this is to make sure that your degree doesn't just represent computing, but takes advantage of NUS as a whole. So the program requirements, as I alluded to before, is about 2 years worth of material. And unrestricted units are basically 1 year of material. Okay, so you get 1 entire year in your 4 years to experiment with courses within your faculty, outside of your faculty, that will make you distinguished and exclusive compared to other students. So just to make it clear, you need to pass your program essentials because they are the namesake of your program. Okay, but for program electives that are still within this 80 unit requirement, they can be substituted for each other. So you can either retake it if you fail it or read another elective. There's also the general education, as I alluded to before. There are 6 general education pillars which all students in NUS, regardless of whether they're in computing or not, must take. This is the Cultures and Connectives course, a Critique and Expressions course, a Data Literacy course, a Digital Literacy course, as well as Singapore Studies and Communities and Engagement. These are courses that lay the foundation of what it means to be an NUS graduate and have important skills for life. We strongly encourage you to complete these general education courses within the first 2 years of your candidature so that you can free time to do other things, such as your unrestricted of electives and overseas studies if you're going for exchange. Now, 3 of these pillars have things that double count for your degrees in NUS computing. So the critiques and expression can be taken in our programs as ES 2660, which is common to a lot of our uh, computing degrees. Also, certain degrees, for example, our business analytics will take BT 1101 for their data literacy, and our computer science and AI graduates will take CS 1010 or CS 1101S, mostly the latter one here. So as I said before, these are the different 6 pillars of the general education that you'll receive at NUS. Now, if you're going to be a resident on campus, those students living in UTown, RVRC, or our NUS college students will follow the curriculum requirements specified by the respective colleges and may need to substitute some of the ones above for ones that are dictated by their college or house. There are more details that you can find by scanning the QR code or using the short link at soc-n.us ULR-REQ. Now, program and major requirements in depth are a bit tricky. Okay, you must pass all with letter grades, okay, unless those classes are allowing you to take an SU option. Most of them do not. You must include at least 2 or 3 programming courses and some other prescribed courses depending on your specific program. So for example, CS 1010, CS 1010A, or CS 1101S programming methodology, UTC 2851 if you are at Acacia College, to CS 2030 or CS 2040 or both in particular programs. And for information security, you can substitute it for CS 2040C, which is taught in the C language instead of Python. And for business analytics students and business AI systems, you may use the BT 1101 to satisfy the data literacy pillar. Now, for program electives, each particular program will have its own list of electives, and you will be able to cover this in the program briefings by the departments later on the 14th of July in the afternoon. So just to recap, again, we have unrestricted electives for 1 year or 40 units. Okay, common curriculums, which we have already talked about, which are all of our university level requirements, but also an additional 4 courses, 1 course being our ethics course, IS 1108, as well as 3 different other courses that span cross-disciplinary and interdisciplinary courses. So this is 12 units in total, and this is the remaining 28. Okay. For the program level requirements, again, your program briefing later in the afternoon will give you some details. But basically, the program experience will be in terms of essentials as well as things relating to your industrial experience requirements. Okay. A single degree, again, comprises of 4 years taken roughly at 20 units a semester for a total of 160 units. But if you're taking a concurrent or double degree program, it may take longer than that. Now, many of us actually want to distinguish ourselves so that employers later on will be able to think highly of us. Okay, so that means not just having a good GPA or grade point average, but making yourself unique, expressed through your types of studies. There are so many ways that NUS allows you to do this. So shown in the background of this slide are many of our minors in navy blue, second majors in purple, and certain areas which both minors and second majors happen. So for example, if you're interested in public health, or perhaps in forensic science, or even data analytics, or in urban studies, there are lots of different ways that you can take your unrestricted electives and try to earn a minor or second major to distinguish yourself from other students. Our dean has made it very clear that in today's environment, computing students have a technical edge, but having a domain of expertise by taking one of these other areas and earning a minor or a second major is a very strong way to make sure you stand in 2 places or even more. Now, single degrees are 160 units of work, but you can do a double degree program or a concurrent degree program to get more out of your degree. Okay, so you can do a double degree, which is 2 separate degrees, or in certain cases, if you can't overload so much, you may want to consider a second major, which is an additional 40 units of work, okay, or 1 year of work. Now, that can still be completed within a single degree because many cases, the 40 units that you take here and the ones that you take over here overlap. okay? So that you can just take a total of your UE space to accomplish your second major, okay? Many students will start with taking a minor in the area and then later on upgrade to the second major if they find that this is of interest. There are double counting rules so that up to 8 units of general education requirements may be counted across for a major requirement. So that means up to 8 can be counted through here. Okay? General education may also be double counted within second majors and minors as well. Double degrees and concurrent degree programs are of various types. There's a CS as well as a Business AI Systems with the BA in business school, as well as one with mathematics under CHS or the College of Humanities and Sciences. You can also self-design a double degree program with another faculty. In certain cases, you can go overseas as well. There's a partner program that we have for very strong students to go to the French Grand Écoles over in the great colleges in France to study STEM disciplines there and get a double degree or a triple degree in some cases. Many students, if they don't want to do a double degree, can opt for the second major. And here, again, there are double counting requirements. So up to 16 units may be used to meet the requirements of both the second major as well as another major and minor in their own program. Only double counting is allowed. So even if you want to do a second major in one degree and a minor in another degree program, you can do that, but only double counting will be allowed for the courses that you select. Okay? For these programs, at least 12 of the units must be at level 3000 so that we can certify that you have depth as well as breadth. And the total unit requirement must be between level 1 to 4000, representing undergraduate education instead of working towards a graduate degree. Again, there are residency rules. So this means that 60% of the courses that go for a second major, and later I'll explain also for a minor, have to be courses read here at NUS. So for example, if you take some relevant course overseas, it won't be counted for this method. Minors are a bit smaller, they're half the size of a second major. And as I said before, most students start with this and work their way up to the second major. Here, up to 8 units or 40% of the total requirements may be used to meet a requirement in both the minor as well as another minor or second major. And again, we have to insist on the same type of requirements. At least 80% of the total units must be at the undergraduate level. And again, 60% of the units must be done here at NUS. Specializations are also 20 units. These are specializations within a degree program, whereas minors are specializations that help you broaden your expertise. Specializations help you dive deeper within the same degree program. So very similar rules exist for each specialization that you might take. Then up to 8 units can be double counted, and at least 80% must be from levels 1 to 4000. And again, 60% must be done here at NUS. So you can see that the rules between second majors, minors, and specializations are all quite similar. Now, just to make it clear as well, there is a minimum and maximum amount of work you need to do in each semester. So the minimum that you can take is 18 units or about 4.5 courses per semester. Okay, a maximum number of courses that you're allowed to take will be dependent on how well you're doing in your studies. Okay, but for the first semester, you are not allowed to waive at all. So it says here, no waiver is allowed in the first semester. This is because we want to make sure that you as an incoming student acclimate well to the university life. Okay, so very, very important because a lot of students miss this. Okay, SOC does not support any type of class or exam timetable waivers, even if your lecturers allow it. This is because the school is so large that class and exam timetables are already very carefully and meticulously scheduled by our administrators. You will be able to fit almost all of your schedules within the class timetables, and so will not need to apply timetable waivers. Appeals will be rejected. Now, there are also important things with respect to your industrial experience. This is because industrial experience helps you transition well into the workforce, and it is an integral part of your studies. In fact, your seniors have said that industrial experience helps them translate what they've learned in the classroom to real-world problems that they'll face when they graduate. So do plan early to make sure that you can complete your compulsory internships and avoid delaying your graduation. This is because even if you're looking for an internship, you may not always get one. Okay? So internships are by default disallowed in your graduating semester. So if you're planning to take internship during this final semester, you'll have to plan ahead for that and seek our industrial relations office permission to do so. There are some cases where students want to continue to stay in the school of computing to pull up their GPA to qualify for a higher level of honors. You can do this by approaching our office for permission, but you have to take note that you still have to take a full load and register for courses that signal your in-depth study. Certain times you may also need to apply leave of absence for some reason to take time off from your studies. This can be both for short-term reasons, for example, attending some competition overseas, if you're a national athlete, for example, or for other academic reasons. For example, founded a startup or you've gotten an additional internship beyond your requirements. In certain cases, we can give you up to a semester's leave of absence, or maybe more, depending on your applications. Sometimes also you might need to do so for medical reasons. For example, rehabilitating after a surgery. So you can see the URL below on the rules for applying for a leave of absence. All right, so now let's cover course registration. Course registration, or course reg, it's known to us, is done through EduRec. EduRec employs a rules-driven, priority-based engine that helps us to allocate courses based on their curricular needs, seniority in the program, as well as their course preferences. And these three things are multiplied together to get a score for how you might be able to get the that you desire. So let's go over this in detail. Again, you may want to refer to the user guide in a bit more detail later on, or scan the QR code while you pause this video to find out more. Priority scoring allots a score for each of the following parts. Okay, A for your program requirement, B for your seniority, and C for things under your control, meaning your rank preference of the courses. All three of these coefficients are going to be multiplied together to finally give you a rank score that will rank you among other students also bidding for the same course. So if your rank score is the same as another student after accounting for all three of these, then we will use these tiebreakers in descending order of consideration to award the remaining spaces to students with the same rank points. Students who have not yet attained the minimum workload of 18 units. Students whose home faculty is the course's host faculty, so that means you get a stronger ability to take other competing courses, even if they're not your program requirements, your course feedback points, and then finally, if all else fails, by random balloting. Are you allowed to drop a course after you've secured it? Yes, you may. In fact, it's a common occurrence that students do a lot of shopping for courses in the first 2 weeks because this is a time when you can drop courses without grade penalty. Many students add the new courses that they want to attend by the end of week 1, which is the deadline. And then by the end of week 2, evaluate whether those courses are ones that they actually want to keep. By the end of week 2, they can drop those courses without any grade penalty. Between week 3, day 1, to the end of recess week, which is approximately 6 weeks, you can still drop a course, but it will be noted on your transcript with a W grade or withdrawn. If you drop later than week 7, day 1 onwards, it will be counted as an F. Remember that you need to make the minimum workload requirements of 18 units per semester as the minimum that you have to take, except for your final semester. Let's now turn our attention to enrichment and activities and cover important information about internships. As we know, NUS is more than about courses. It's important to develop a network of lifelong friends and explore and find out what you're passionate about. And you may be wondering, what exactly do employers look for? What about Google? What might they say? Let's take a look at this short video clip.
Good afternoon, Mr. Fitz.
How you doing, Ben?
Great. We're not going to introduce ourselves again because we already did.
Did we?
We did.
Okay.
Let's do the next question on your excellent G-pad there.
G-pad.
Love the G-pad.
Don't leave home without it. Okay. So, what are the qualities you look for in a prospective employee? Well, clearly, dashing good looks and a nice lab coat is a good start.
And banjo.
Banjo, yes.
Absolutely. No. So what I always tell folks, when I'm doing interviews at least, is that, people who do programming, computer science, there's this long sliding scale of extreme practical experience all the way to extreme theoretical experience, right? And that on the one end of the extreme, you might have somebody who just got a PhD in computer science and can write essays on computational complexity, but you ask them to write 5 lines of code on the whiteboard and they can't.
Right.
On the other extreme, you've got somebody who's maybe been programming a microprocessor in a cell phone for 20 years and is so incredibly specialized and amazing at writing assembly language, but they've forgotten all the theory they've ever learned, right? And so Google is looking for someone in the middle, right, who's got theory at their fingertips, but also has some practical experience and can write good code. And
right.
That's what our interview process is about.
We often talk about generalists, right? And the example I use is that we don't want somebody to sort of describe what a generalist is. We don't want somebody who knows how to fix the model 400 XYZ of the Acme dishwasher, right? And then the model 500 XYZ comes out and they're at a complete loss as to what to do, right? We want somebody who understands how dishwashers work and can build a dishwasher, fix a dishwasher,
figure out new models,
figure out a new model as they
Yeah.
come out, and sort of roll with the dishwashing innovation.
So we're going to look on your resume for proof that some sign of generalism, right? That you've got practical experience, you've got theoretical experience, and that you're able to learn new things and adapt. And then the theory then is that, if Google hires you, they're hiring you as a generalist, and the theory is that they could put you on any project and that you would do pretty well, right? And that you could move between projects, and people do, in fact, move between projects.
But beyond that, we look for someone who's a good fit for Google in the long haul. Okay, so skills and experience are important, but you got to be a good fit for the company, for the culture. We work in the internet, right? The internet world is a very disruptive world. A lot of change, a lot of new stuff's constantly coming up. You sort of have to be able to learn new things and roll with the punches, so to speak,
and play well with others, which is not always a given.
Right. So, well, that's important. But the other thing is that we want to look for something that's going to make you stand out. Right. That's what we look for in a prospective candidate. Whether it's an interesting hobby or an accomplishment or some leadership thing that you've done.
Because we see a lot of resumes that just are just full of millions of generic acronyms, and they all kind of look the same after a while. So figure out some way to distinguish yourself that says, I not only know what I'm doing, but here's something interesting that proves I have a passion for computer science.
Right.
That's another thing I always say.
Or not even just computer science. I mean, it can be anything.
Engineering in general.
Yeah, engineering in general.
So, I always tell people, or as I always think to myself when I'm interviewing somebody, if this person were a millionaire and did not have to work at all, would they still be playing around on the computer? Would they still be writing code or doing engineering things for fun? And if so, then that's the kind of person I want to work with.
Right. Is it their passion?
Is it their passion, right? They're not just doing it because they have to, pay the rent. So,
well, and we come from the open source world, so that's something that we are particularly looking out for in people. We find that people who write open source code are often a good fit for Google.
They're passionate.
Because you're not going to spend your spare time writing software if you're not good at it, right?
Or if you're not passionate about it.
If you're not passionate about it. So those are two qualities that tend to fall in to people that write software in their spare time, I'd say.
So it's not a requirement that you work on open source or something.
Right.
It's just an example of something that might stand out on a resume.
Right. So good fit, solid skills and experience, good fit for the long haul especially, and you've typically done something outstanding.
Yeah. Great.
All right.
We'll see you next time.
Come back soon.
So you've heard from our speakers with the fire engine in the background that a good fit for prospective employers is that the student demonstrates their passion in one area, that they enjoy computing and what it represents irrespective of the coursework. So there are lots of different activities and enrichments that you can do, including student clubs, leadership programs, student exchange overseas, internship for work experience, summer-winter programs, entrepreneurship programs, and other things that can enrich your world, such as do your own courses, research experience, and open source volunteering, of which the Google engineers also mentioned. You can also participate in competitions and get teaching experience to help level up your juniors after you've mastered the courses themselves. For student clubs, there are many, and we have our own student life, which will be giving you a welcome tea later on in the semester so that you can get a better understanding of all of the different programs that are out there. We have the NUS Competing Club, which is the official student group from the NUS competing faculty, but a number of other student groups, including the student chapter of the ACM, the Games Development Group, Gray Hats, which is an information security special interest group, BizIT, which looks at entrepreneurship, Women in Tech, AI Society, and Computing for Voluntary Welfare Organizations. We also have the NUS Hackers, whose famed hack and roll is known internationally. And there are many other smaller groups that are yet to become official student clubs. You should also think about doing an internship or a study abroad during a semester or year. There are plenty of places that you can go, especially if you maintain a good grade point average. Here are some of the places where people have gone over the last year or two. During your first summer, you may elect to take a self-nurturing program called Orbital. Orbital is our independent software development project, where every student is asked to build their own project in a pair. This project allows you to propose your own project and for you to scour the internet and use AI effectively to create a project that you want to work on. The basic project is to create a web application in Python, which allows you to create something bespoke of your own that you can demonstrate to a potential employer in a job interview. The work is graded as independent work as CSCU and awarded to you in the following semester after the summer is completed. Even though it's worth 4 units of independent work, there are different ways that you can make this project more worthwhile by proposing a more advanced project, which gives you the bragging rights of a higher level of achievement. You might find research is more of your angle. You can take CP2107 or Odyssey. Odyssey complements Orbital by introducing students to research, not only CS research, but other forms of research as well. For example, in our Department of Information Systems and Analytics. For first-year students opting for Odyssey, instead, we will introduce you to various research areas by pairing you with research students or professors. Again, it is for 4 units of independent work graded as pass or fail or satisfactory or unsatisfactory. For people interested in research, there are subsequent coursework such as CS2309, which is our work on CS research methodologies, as well as Europe, which is CP3209, and our final year project, CP4101. You may also elect to join the CS Turing program, which is a research-intensive program designed for students who want to go on to graduate school. We also have internships, and most students do this in their year 2 or year 3. The Advanced Technology Attachment Program, or ATAP, is a 6-month course credit work. Similarly, the Digital Transformation Leadership Program, or DTLP, is also a 6-month course credit. These are usually during the semester and may extend into the summertime. For the Student Internship Program, or SIP, this is done usually during the summer and is worth 3 months of course credit. So the internship programs are in turn worth 12 units for the 6-month ones and 3 units for, 6 units for the SIP programs. If you're not sure how to get an internship, you may want to consider looking around how your seniors have done that. For example, Michael has demonstrated and documented how anyone within SOC can land an internship with Google, Microsoft, Facebook, or other companies through his documented project intern. Open source and volunteer work is very meaningful, and you can do this under our CVWO. There are 2 courses worth a total of 12 units that you can take. These will allow you to build systems for social service agencies while gaining experience to help you level up in your software engineering. These are mappable to a 3-month student internship program, or SIP. Entrepreneurship doesn't just stop there. There are places that you can go overseas to marry the idea of student exchange with entrepreneurship work. This happens through our famed NOC program, or NUS Overseas Colleges. You can see that we have campuses for this program all over the world, including Toronto, Waterloo, and Silicon Valley, as well as Shenzhen, which are very well-known places for development of technology. There are courses also on digital entrepreneurship within the school, such as CP2201 Journey of the Innovator, as well as an IS 3251 for Principles of Technological Entrepreneurship. Finally, students who do coursework, project work, may want to look at how they can take that project to the next level. By applying for the Venture Initiation Program, or VIP, you can get up to 10,000 Singapore dollars to develop an idea and incubate it within SOC to take your project further. The Furnace is our incubation center that houses startups at SOC for a certain fee. Undergraduate research is another way that you can encourage yourself to develop if you're not interested in entrepreneurship. So here, there is the Undergraduate Research Opportunity Program, or UROP, CP3109, as well as final year project that you can do to take this further. We'll demonstrate one very interesting project that was done under these guises. This was several students at NUS under our NUS HCI group who completed this sand canvas project with a touch table, as you can see, to simulate storytelling using sand, digital sand. You may also wonder about what employers look for besides Google, who's more of a research company. But how about KPMG as a consulting arm? Let's take a look at what they say.
In particular, in a resume, what we look for is a balanced, what I call a balanced scorecard. Great GPAs are always great to have, but then other activities, whether it's leadership positions on campus, job-related responsibilities, summer employment. Also, one thing we look at is, do you have international experience? We're always looking for people who want exposure international or have had exposure to international, whether it's culturally, or being bilingual or multilingual. Those are things that we would key on. If you prepare for the interview, researching the website, you might learn something about KPMG, whether it's international opportunities or various service lines, and so forth and so on. And I think asking intelligent, well-prepared questions that don't look rehearsed at the same time, I think are appropriate to do. During the 30-minute initial interview, it's a professional interview, and maintaining that professionalism, yet being relaxed at the same time, and letting your personality and speaking off your resume to allow that to happen, I think is important. So never think you can let your guard down because you're feeling a lot comfortable in that first 15 or 20 minutes. It's still a very professional interview, and you want to portray throughout the whole entire period professionally.
Now, we'll cover the final part of this briefing on useful resources and information. The NUS Bulletin has a lot of information about the courses and has been updated for this year. The SOC undergraduate page has information relevant to all undergraduates. You have to choose the requirements for your own particular cohort, which is matriculating this year. For information about milestones that are particular to parts of your timeline, for example, for internship or exchange, you will be informed by our offices at Undergraduate Studies how to find out and participate in these programs. Make sure you don't miss these opportunities. There's information, of course, as we've alluded to, in Course Reg and in NUS mods for courses. And all of the course briefing slides for this briefing will also be deposited here at the freshman homepage. You will be also receiving computer accounts for use while you're an undergraduate, including the NUSNet account, which has the form of E followed by a bunch of numbers at NUS EDU. For inquiries to our undergraduate office, you can go to the following web host, socug.comp.nus.edu/sg, or also without the COMP. Both should work just fine. The SOC undergraduate office, which is the place where I hold sway over, is assisted by 3 assistant deans, Aaron Tan, Wang Chiu-hong, and Zhao Jin. We have a number of administrators who are very capable and will be helping you throughout your academic career to accomplish all of the enrichment and activities that you need to do. All undergraduate matters that you need help with can be reached through the forms, which is a redress tracker that you can use by going to the following web host, socug.comp.nus.edu.sg. But you can also email us. Okay, if you email us, we will try to triage it into one of the categories that you see on the left-hand side. This is why it may be a bit slower. Make sure you also look for announcements from the SOC-UG-announce, which will announce information about new courses as other important information. You may be able to see this as emails which have a prefix of square bracket SOC space UG and square bracket as a prefix. The SOC Office of Industry Relations is governed by Associate Professor Sharon Tan, and her group will be assisting you for all of your internship and ATAP needs. You can reach them at the following address, which is ask Industry Relations at comp.nus.edu.sg. Industry relations also works very closely with the Career Advisory, which is located in Com 1 on the ground floor, right after you pass through the double glass doors. You can come to them to get advice about careers, how to plan for my career, how to prepare your CV and interview. They often hold mock interviews for students that are preparing for their interview season for both full-time jobs as well as internships. Sometimes life in SOC and your life in general may be overwhelming. And the Student Life Office also has a wellness division that helps with this. The Student Life team aims to foster a balance between academic, student life, and success. You can reach them at socfamily@nus.edu, and it is governed and led by Associate Professor Bimlesh Wadhwa and her very capable team of assistants. If things really become overwhelming, they or yourself can refer you to the university counseling services. You can make a call to them, email them, or just come in person after you've made an appointment. You can also walk in at their Kent Ridge campus, which is the main place where appointments are taken care of, at the center of campus next to Yusuf Itzhak House or YIH. If you're feeling overwhelmed or stressed out, it's an important thing to do is to check with a counselor to make sure that you know how to appropriately deal with your level of stress and figure out options to dial back. And that's it. This is the end of our briefing. And later on, after you've completed watching all of these videos, you should participate in both the faculty and departmental briefings that will happen on Monday, July 14th, from 10 to 12 in the morning for the faculty briefing, and then departmental briefings that happen at 2:30 to 4 in the afternoon. During these webinars, you can ask questions either by audio in certain cases or by using the Q&A segment by typing your questions in. Those sessions will be recorded so that we can take transcripts of all of the questions that you ask so that we can compile a frequently asked questions for dissemination back to yourself. And again, you can find all the materials for this talk on the following sites for the slides as well as the recorded video. Thank you so much for listening to this recording, and we'll see you at the welcome tea. Bye now.